Hello, and welcome to Saga Roll. I'm Toasty, one of our resident storytellers and occasional table gremlins. We are a group of friendly, like minded individuals which enjoy sharing our interests with you, our audience. Be advised, however, that our content can tend to cover mature situations, strong language, and possible distressing scenarios. With that in mind, welcome to our table. Thank you. We begin our evening with a group of particularly soaked kindred, actually Sabbat, sitting in a eclectic set of chairs in a ringed library, discussing amongst themselves the formidable opponent of how to enter a city the next night.
So I reckon we're better off just not bothering with all that Camarilla stuff and just go and cause some shit. Sorry, I wouldn't say shit. Causing some chaos.
But it's our task not to infiltrate and find out what's going on.
Or just make a mess.
The gardener would like to know more information. There's supposed to be a special guest, but they did say, however you want to approach it, they won't hold against you how you think would be best to approach it with your group.
I think it'd be better if we just go in, cause some mayhem, grab people, impress upon them how important it is for them to tell us the answers to the questions that we want, eat them, move on. Nice, simple, direct, no stupid rules. Because we've got too many rules as it is.
I favor the quieter approach, but I'm open to maybe a little chaos on the side.
Frank looks a bit grumpy at that.
We notice the difference.
Grumpier.
Jules will speak up. Well, we could always do a little bit of both, and some of us go into the Camarilla, and some of us not be in the Camarilla.
Awesome. Sitting on the fence. Perfect.
So, do you want to have fun or not? We can be team
Shrugs.
fun. We can be team infiltrate.
If we try to infiltrate, there's a chance we are assigned tasks, and those tasks may split us up. So, how do we ensure that if we do infiltrate, we stick together?
I would like to point out that there are at least two individuals of similar circumstance that are aware of your group inside of New Orleans. One may know more than the other. You have Smokey, who is definitely aware of each individual of your group, as well as the Sabbat presence and location out here. And then there is your sire, which you've spoken with, who may or may not know more details about the group, like wise. So that could work for or against you, depending on how you plan.
I could reach out to my sire and see if she knows Smokey.
I can answer that for you right now. Yes.
She does.
Yes. She absolutely knows Smokey.
Okay. Why don't we use Smokey to get into the city, meet with my sire, and between us five, Smokey and my sire, try to work out a way to infiltrate the Camarilla in a way that guarantees we're all together. And if we can't come up with one, then we will fall back to Frank's plan of chaos and torture.
I didn't say the T word, but okay.
Kind of.
I may have implied it. You inferring it.
Yeah.
If we do get split up, it might be a good chance for us to, some, weakling
It
to our
better be
ranks.
quick. Better say so quick. Otherwise, I should be recruiting them that way.
Hey, look, if they can't be of use, then they can be, boon to our strength or whatever.
Does the gardener have any view on us siring or
They
being?
have mentioned that it is a tactic which has been employed by the Sabbat previously, that sometimes in times of great turmoil or need, that there will be a number of individuals turned en masse, and those which are the most worthy of remaining within the Sabbat are the ones last standing. Purely a war of numbers sometimes, and the Sabbat is not against that approach.
That sounds like a great idea.
They do warn you, however, that ambition, when it comes to being a Cainite, can be a double-edged sword. Because remember, those who fail are punished.
Yeah, we turn a whole bunch of them and then just say, "You're vampires now. Have fun. Kick them out. Don't tell them anything else about who they are, and just let the chaos reign."
They don't say anything against that. And they do encourage you that if you have any questions, their books are available, as so are they. I will say this, you will understand the concept of turning now, of being turned into a Cainite, and you understand the general premise of ghouls. So you know that even if maybe you don't want to create a canine, you could create a ghoul. You're also aware of blood bonds after your ceremony because you felt the previous ones break. And though now what you currently feel is not necessarily a blood bond to one another, you do feel some sort of camaraderie. And you can tell that there's a difference. There's not a don't feel compelled to be friendly to one another, but you do feel as though you would trust one another. You know it wouldn't be easy to each other presently. How long this lasts, you're not certain. The gardener did mention it was a monthly ritual. If that is arbitrary or not, it remains to be found out.
Didn't the doc learn how to do the ritual?
Yes. So partaking in the first ritual, you would understand the premise of it. It's why they let you know that you need to incant what you believe the motto of being a Sabbat is as you share. So you contribute to the glass, whatever you choose the vessel to be. All of you contribute and each drink after you state what you believe is the motto of the Sabbat, what you believe it boils down to.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I like Hank. I like Frank's plan and Hank's plan and Snow's plan. And even though Richie hasn't said anything, I like his plan.
We could all hear it though. He's thinking it heavily.
Is it blood and fire?
No.
I don't like your plan.
So you like all of our plans, Doc?
Yeah.
What are you going with? Or a variant thereof? Or some subtle interweaving of?
Well, I can't choose. I like all of you so much.
But
Let's
over
do them
this,
all.
you have one bond. It didn't form bonds with everyone.
Oh, it didn't?
No, not this
No,
one.
I
Not
don't remember
because
that.
of the
Sorry.
good. Not because of the because it is a ceremony and not a direct giving and taking.
I
You'll
ate
get
all
off
your
the hook of
plans.
leading that easily.
Look, you're the boss. You get to decide what we're going to do. I'll follow whatever you say.
I think we should start getting some information.
Let's go with
But
Hank's
let-
plan.
If at a later stage we need to let shit get real, we still can, can't we? It's always on in our back pocket.
We go with Smokey. We meet with his sire. We learn more information, and we go from there.
I'm going to keep it in my front shirt pocket, really close to hand.
You mean up your sleeve, so literally like a moment's notice, you can just eject
Yeah.
the card for play.
It's like on the tip of my, like, I'm going to follow the plan, but at a moment's notice, hit and fire. Like, all you got to do is say the word and it'll be blood and fire.
You're always standing there with a Molotov cocktail not lit in hand, waiting, like looking like, huh? Huh?
To be swigging from it, but that thing is going up the moment you just look at me. I don't even need words. Just look at me in a meaningful way, and I'll know what you mean, and then it'll be blood and fire.
Now?
Oh god, so it's essentially what happened between Elizabeth and the rest of her chantry at this point.
Mhm.
Now?
So is the
Yeah.
code word BNF? Just B. Okay.
And just one letter.
Isn't it more like a bit of an inhale of breath?
Yeah.
Sharp
Me go,
intake.
I know what you mean. I'm off. Well, so when we going tomorrow?
I think so.
Cool. In that case, Mr. the Gardener, can I take advantage of your library, please?
Certainly. In particular you're looking for, I might be able to help.
We'd like to learn more about what it is we are.
To be Cainite or to be
Be like what we are, like vampires. I want to learn about like we come from, we can do, and that sort of stuff.
by all means. And they will stand up out of their new chair that you brought them.
Look proud.
The room actually to the which moved earlier for you to head down to the chapel below. And they motion for roughly almost ceiling to floor the books available on it. And you can see that most of these have been retranscribed, rebound. Is a mixture of different types. You have parchment, you have what you imagine to be dried skin. It's a variation of ages here.
Are any of them written in American?
Been working on a translation, and they will pluck a more recently used book. You can tell that the leather has not cracked, the spine is still relatively fresh on it, and bring it over to you. And it's not, as you flip through it, you notice it's probably done about halfway, but there's great attention to detail, and it doesn't look like it's printed or pressed or anything like that. This is hand transcribed, and you can see the calligraphy on each page, and you can see that the imagery has also been translated over. If you open some of the other books, the images themselves have been brought over.
Well, he's got big hands and he's a big heavy guy. He'll probably be quite kind of delicate with the books. Like
This
it belongs to somebody else, so he feels like he has to look after it.
this book itself is actually fairly large. Like, you are a larger man. Hands probably take up half of the book face on either side, so you can comfortably open it and read it. It is a large span book.
Okay.
It gives you the supposed primary origin of Caine. It
Interesting that.
mentions the firstborn. It mentions the second, third generation, respectively. And it touches briefly on Lilith as a figure, but gives you no particular detail of her as a Cainite one way or another. You can tell it's a very loose form interpretation of her presence, that she's present, that she's a individual in the history, but it's almost as though the person, like Gardner mentioned this previously, the person writing this account is uncertain as to how to describe her influence, aside from that she was present.
Okay, quite interested in the whole Caine thing. So, being an ex-Catholic, that kind of dovetails into my understanding of stuff anyway. So I can vibe with that. Don't know about this Lilith individual, but cool. How shall we? I'll spend some time reading that.
You go through it, you recognize a number of the busts and the stained glass that you've seen dotted around inside the chapels etched into the book, and you start to actually pair them with their namesakes.
Okay.
Learn of Malkav, Salat, the starters, where everything originated from. You don't
Then
necessarily understand why they're enemies yet, because this is painting them in a very factual light.
okay, we'll take that and sort of into the back with the rest of the group.
Anyone else with questions?
But help if we, no, you explain, by character, like Gardner did explain like what clans we are, right?
Yes. Each of you knows your clan respectively. So when you start to read names there, you realize these are very literal translations from name to clan line. So, go ahead.
Jules will raise her hand. We know a little bit about our clans. If it is like that, we're one of them and not one of us, since they care about clans more than we do.
Certainly. I encourage you to learn. I think our history is very important. And I think that being Cainites, we should carry it forth. It's the priest of my pack. That is one of my primary focus. For you, what question might you have?
What I need to know, being a freshly made too.
Your clan is Ventru.
Okay,
You are considered of noble or imposing has a stronger connotation to it, but noble or imposing blood. People who are leaders usually are embraced by them, not necessarily the beautiful, but the powerful, the influential. Beautiful is predominantly Toreador, and I do mean beauty in a most literal and figurative sense. It doesn't mean that you are not beautiful. You can very well be beautiful and be Ventru, but Toreador are primarily concerned with the aesthetic around them. As a Ventru, you would be more immersed in commerce, finance, the day-to-day and the structure thereof beneath it. Structure is important to you.
Makes sense. So basically what I was into when I was alive, okay?
A number of you were chosen because you fit those roles very well already. Name you need to know about, and one that we've already touched on prior. The prince of the city is a Ventru, Gilbo.
Marcel.
That note, there's a court of sorts that is held by the prince, and his advisors are called Primogen. They're usually the oldest among the city. Some Primogen, yes. And they are usually the oldest among the clan within the city for representation. Most appear at something called Elysium. It is would be equated to high society function. Invitations are not particularly seen as optional, but due to New Orleans' large collection of bloodlines, not all attend every function. When they are required, they show. The faces you are most likely to either meet, depending on your approach, or hear of are the Toreador Primogen, Gabriella Metoye, the Gangrel Primogen, Martine Marvaux, the Bruja, Josephine Giro, the Malkav, or Malkavian, Horace Smith, and the Nosferatu, Martin Meeks. And whatever you do, my sincerest advice, do not find yourself on the wrong side of Martin Meeks.
Which one's Martin Meeks?
He is the Nosferatu Primogen. He is the childer of the previous Primogen and attained his seat by impressing his sire the most. That being said, your current prince of the city, Gilbo, rumor that he made his position on the back of Lawrence Meeks, Martin's sire.
Did you drop all those names into chat for me so I can make a note?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All I got was the Malkavian one's called Horse.
Horace
That's-
Smith.
No, because your accent is horse now.
So, do you want these Primogen dead eventually?
Oh, I don't care about these. So Josephine is a friendly face presently. Turn, devour, whatever works best, but find the information. That's my goal. They are names to be wary and cautious of. They are well beyond the young Anne that you gathered up for me. In the grand scheme of things, Anne is a tadpole compared to their age. Darn all of you.
Will Anne be joining us, or no?
Anne will not be joined, unfortunately. You see to her care, extract what information she may have remaining, and then I believe she might join the garden depending on her outlook.
When you say join the garden, do you mean we're going to eat her?
I mean that I have some open spaces in the planters, and I think it would be an apt and interesting experiment to see how my plants react.
Okay.
So you may have a taste. Further questions? So your Ventru, Bruja, Gangrel, Malkav, also called Malkavian, and Tzimitzi.
Which is the best one?
Clearly mine.
There's a large argument about it. Sabbat doesn't focus on the clans to avoid that, though you will mostly hear Tremere from the Camarilla.
So eat all them then.
If you like what I can do, you'll love what Tremere can do, though they are a bit more limited. They work more with blood and less with the world.
I like them already.
Just keep in mind, practice perfect when it comes to such situations and doing things off the cuff can have unexpected additional effects or consequences. Table-wise, yes, I am very aware of the fact of my previous character in this conversation.
So be sure to make with the Tremere.
Oh, I thought it was eat them.
Make friends with them, then eat them.
Dinner guests.
Be cautious, though. And assuming they may be physically imposing, not always, touch one without their permission and you could possibly have woken for your last night. You will not always be able to see the effects they weave, but just because you cannot see them does not mean they can't affect you.
Right.
Think of it like a magnet with a very, very response. You put the opposing ends together, correct? But if you try to put like on it, if you touch something that they've placed a ward on, it's going to repel you. And depending on how good they are at what they do, is the strength of how quickly and violently you are repelled.
But much like a magnet, if you apply a lot of heat to it, it will stop working.
I would say that is true for most any Cainite or person.
Yeah, so on fire.
I touched that correctly, right? That's what I meant. As you're reading, what names are you looking for? And I imagine you're sharing this with the group.
Yeah, I'm interested in this Caine guy. Like, the concept came from the biblical sense, but this is like a story of Caine.
Yes.
So Caine, I'm really interested in. But when clans are mentioned, maybe tout the third generation connections.
You notice that Caine had a number of children mentioned, and that there's a mention that there were more, likely more. But
Mhm.
you also recognize that most of his children were, and it doesn't say it directly, but unsuccessful. Like most of these turnings ended up with poor fates. And it seems like those that actually embraced who and what they were continued on and created more of those, which created the lines that you now see.
It seems to me like three that are kind of, and they went on to create the third generation, right?
Pretty much, yes. And that there's a little bit of back and forth where some of those may have come from. Like Caine have had his first wife that he created into a Cainite, and she may have also created some of that third generation with him. But it is primarily he and the second created the third. And from the third, everything else stems forth.
And
It's
that's
like
where it
you
all
can,
went wrong.
yeah, you see where the division of lines started. Like the moment they diverged out from Caine, not necessarily weaker, like you infer weaker they became, but the more the blood began to show that there were differences and divergences. And there's not a family tree all the way down to the 12th generation with your happy little pictures on it at the bottom on one of the pages, but I maybe one day be.
But if it's true though, we trace it back though.
Yes, you would theoretically be able to find your sire if you knew who they were and run it all the way up the tree line to Caine. And that's why you're called Cainites. That's why the
Kind of
gardener,
interesting that.
yeah, that has been referring to you as Cainites. It does touch on the Nod, and that's where the form of Lilith or the figure of Lilith is mentioned, that he meets this individual there as he is wandering.
And that's the land outside the garden, right? Well, that's very interesting. I like this. I need to find out who my sire is so I can have a conversation with him and figure out the line.
That's a point, Mr. Gardner. We know now all about the Prince of the Stir and his primogen. What about the Sabbat? Are there a similar thing in play with you guys? Are you part of a group?
Is there a prince? Are you the prince?
I'm not the prince. I am, you would call his advisor. So you have the prince of the Camarilla, and then you have their council, which is usually the Primogen. But the Sabbat isn't neatly tucked away into a single city. We usually have, some of us retain two larger cities, but some of us take over greater expanses of area. And because of that, we have a very similar structure to, it's unfortunate to reference this way, but like cardinals, bishops.
Oh, I know about that.
And the higher you run in that hierarchy, the more important they are. I am a priest and an advisor to my pack, and my pack is actually over, not fully recognized in Camarilla areas, which is one of the things we're trying to remedy now with your group. But we are passing the coastline, the Gulf Coast, if you would. And we are slowly making our way along those states and into Mexico. We are bridging our disparate brothers and distant contact into a more unified network. And our primary goal right now is to take over as many port cities as possible.
Okay.
Do we get to meet your pack?
If all goes well for you, yes.
Oh,
Okay.
that'll be good.
You may meet one of the local heads as well, depending on how long this takes. You've already met one of my
What's
pack members.
Oh yeah.
Smoky.
Applause.
Is Smoky?
No.
No, what's it? In the car.
The one who almost blew away with the shotgun.
What? What was that?
When we're showering,
Gautier.
house
Yes, Gautier.
Yeah, he
Shower.
very nearly got shot in the head.
What are you talking about?
When we went to the house
Yeah.
with
Well,
the
no,
old
blew
people.
up.
And I ate that lady.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of people almost raged, breaking tools and nails and things. Yes, surprisingly enough, Peter seemed to get a very good drop on him.
Nice. Maybe not so shit dog.
The two finger guns.
So when we meet in
Tomorrow.
people tomorrow,
Yes, you'll be leaving my care tomorrow.
Will we ever come back here?
You have Smokey. He can communicate with me. You might even be able to learn how to communicate with me on your own, or figure out methods to do so.
Maybe we could like take your phone number.
I don't
Know your phone number.
know. It makes calls out, but I don't know it.
7. Number 7.
Okay.
They genuine, almost a little bit reluctant to admit it, but they seem genuine that they do not know their own phone number.
We could probably figure it out if you find that useful.
Maybe. I mean, it quite often when they stay here.
Would you answer if it rang?
If I heard it.
Okay.
You have a sense that the gardener may have never actually used the phone. It may have been set up by Smokey.
You know, I should very much like to come back. I think you got some work that still needs doing around here, and I should like to help you out with that.
You are most welcome. I only request that you announce yourself when you arrive, so that I may extend hospitality. It may not always be for a lengthy amount of time, but I will grant you leave as much as I can.
Okay.
And being said, I extend this to each of you. If you want to return, if you simply wish to visit, if you seek knowledge or advice, simply announce yourselves once you arrive. If you do not have a method to do so earlier, I will extend what hospitality I can. Peter, been here a few times at this point, and you do know that the gardener is true to his word.
Which song?
Can you not hear it?
The gardener strums fingers across the armrests in thought as you are reading from the translated history. Do not believe I have further advice that I could give you. There are a number of rites that you should learn, Dr. Isaacs.
Do you have a book on that, or is that something I need to learn from you tonight?
It is something you learn with time. You could keep a book, but it is a little bit frowned upon given the nature of our schism with some of our cousins. That being said, it is not without merit that I may have one within my library somewhere.
I don't mean to take. I mean to memorize while I'm here.
Tongues do you speak?
I don't think I ever got that far on the character. That wasn't really something I was knowledgeable of.
I speak American.
Would that be a intellect thing?
It's a general question if you believe your character would have a secondary, potentially third language.
Probably.
It's an advantage that you pick.
He probably. Yeah. Well, I don't have any advantages of him. But as a doctor, he'd probably have a rudimentary grasp of Greek.
You hesitate, and noticing your hesitation, they will pick out a book from the shelf, from the history section that was designated to you, and hand it over. And cracking it open, you can tell that this is maybe 2 to 3 words because of their roots per page. It's in the very same hand as the one that's currently being read. And you notice that one of the very first, what you would imagine chapters to be, is actually has a sketch of the goblet that you drank from that evening. You imagine it to be detailing the rite that you performed that night.
Okay. I do have a question. If this is supposed to be a monthly ritual that we're supposed to partake, do I need a goblet?
You need to find implementations for each of your rituals. Reserve them for yourselves.
Wait, I could probably help you with that.
Yeah.
Fancy, pretty good hands, and I'm really good with metal.
Hank did have a scrap shop.
Maybe I can work on making something for us.
All right.
Do you have a forge in your workshop?
You
Hank?
have something you could probably tack things together with, but it isn't a specialty.
Would you have a problem with me putting a forge together in your workshop? Something basic.
I should let you know. There is a rather common aversion to the fire for Cainites.
Sure. I'm going to have no problem with that.
I mean, it is not something you can always help. You've not encountered it particularly because I've been cautious about torches and the things and how they show themselves to you. You're probably comfortable with cigarettes, but if you get around a larger flame, fireplace, a bonfire, a building fire, something like that, it could, in reference to what you are now, oftentimes the urges you have within you are called the beast, a creature, because it's more primal. You're more in tune with your primal instincts now. And its instinct is to fear fire.
Then I will bring it to heel.
Very well.
I'm not having that being in control of me. That's not right.
That's what encourages you to drink.
No, that's me all the time.
Oh yeah, you're the alcoholic. Tabletop. The desire you felt when you drank from the goblet to continue drinking more. It is that. But when you become hungry, it leads you instead of you being able to say no and push back.
Oh, so don't get hungry. Got it.
If you can help it, yes. That goes for each of you.
There's a lot of people in the world.
You know what there are a lot of in New Orleans?
People?
Camarilla.
Yeah, they taste better.
And you see a very rare, very in the sense that gives you a little bit of discomfort seeing it smile on the gardener's face. Very faint.
Don't be hungry.
Be careful around fire. If you swam before, your experience may be different.
Swam. As in swimming, not on purpose.
Do we not do well with water?
No, we got rained on all the time. We're all good.
You sink. The gentlemen here that are a bit larger and more physically apt may have already tended to sink at times if you did not continue to paddle, though now you sink faster, all of you. You don't need air in your lungs. It helps buoy you.
So we don't need to swim. We just sink and walk.
Yes, but you will have a difficult time getting out of spaces if it is a tight enclosure.
I have that problem anyway.
Just something to keep in mind. Although I do recommend avoiding holy water. Blessed water, water of the fountain, faith. Each of you has entered the chapel. I imagine each of you has felt the shiver, a slight discomfort crossing the threshold.
Oh, I thought it was just me.
Everyone, correct? And they will slowly go through each of you. Peter, they look to you. Jules.
I haven't actually been in the chapel yet.
But each of you has, for those who have crossed the threshold. And they will nod. No, that is a residual effect. It was at one point an actual service area for a Christian faith. It has been for 2 hours. And they incline their head towards you, Jules.
Jill nodded a little bit, wondering why I felt that way.
And then they'll direct their attention a bit between you and your counterparts, specifically you and Frank. Sorry. Those of you who tended to keep faith, areas with an active congregation will be more difficult or less welcoming to actually set foot in.
So no more church. Okay.
You could try. Let me know how it turns out for you. No, I'm genuinely curious. If you're confused or concerned, look, the gardener leans forward and like holds out a hand towards you a little bit. It's just as if placating and states, no, I'm curious. It's something I've yet to document.
Jules will slowly nod. Okay, I'll report findings if I'm still among us.
Well, don't intentionally yourself. But if something were to happen and you cross over and you're still among us, I'd be fascinated to know what you felt.
Sure. I have an idea of how to accomplish that as well. Out of character, I need to make a note.
I have an idea how we can do that too. Got 50 foot of rope, haven't we?
Okay, note made.
You don't mind me asking, what's your idea?
Well, see, my idea is to make one of us, then send them in, and then report the findings back to me about it.
Truthfully, that's brilliant.
I was thinking we go and find one, and then we tie him onto a rope, and we throw him in a church, and then we pull them out again and see what they say. And if they...
That can work, but I can make one of us, and then you can throw them in with the rope, and then we can pull them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've got what we need.
But why would I bother...
That smile is so uncomfortable.
Jules will kind of shift a little bit. But why would I make one just to destroy one? What, do we do that? She'll look at the gardener.
Particularly. Devouring ones you create can impart something to you, but the process is so laborious. The return would be better if you found someone like you or older than you for maybe slightly more effort, but less doesn't take as much time.
To see, no point in eating one of our own, especially if they're loyal to us.
No, but if we make one for a job, once he's done his job, you know.
Let him do more jobs.
I mean, he'd a job, wouldn't he?
Being fodder is not exactly a job title.
Maybe you could count it like that.
Nothing else, we just find someone older and then.
Oh yeah, you do.
Yeah, well, that would be better. Are you not listening to what the gardener's saying?
I mean, I'm the gardener is saying is like perfectly reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I do too. I just don't like. What's the point of eating them if it that does nothing?
Because it might tide us over, you know. Cause it tastes good. Tastes really good.
Well,
we taste real good.
Well, that's what the mortals are for.
Yeah, but
Jules, you also understand what he's saying. The difference in taste is very strong.
Yeah, she'll just kind of shrug her. She just don't want to make one and then just
This way, right? We get someone, we drain them, right? That's one feed. We turn them into one of us. We send them off to go and feed. They come back, and then we eat them. That's 2 feeds out of the same body. It's efficient. And then we didn't even have to go out and feed in the first place. We make them go and do it. And the second feed is so much nicer than the first one.
I would like to, table-wise, state this, because I can see where this is headed. If you create an experience farm, I'm going to make it at a lower return rate.
I wasn't thinking about it in those terms, but
technically. Don't do me. I see your Meals on Wheels deal here. I see the underwriting too. Yeah. You have Meals on Wheels and you legitimately have your experience farm. Yeah, go eat, guy. Oh, look, it's doing low-level stuff for me. Oh, great. A little bit of experience in you now.
That thought never occurred to me.
You're legitimately creating the D&D equivalent of the Adventurers Guild, but then cannibalizing your adventurers.
Mm-hmm.
And for a moment. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.